In this video, I'm going to talk about the benefits of wearing minimalist or barefoot style shoes, and also the qualities of a barefoot style shoe. So these are my Lems. Okay, so Lems are one of my barefoot or minimalist shoes. Some of the qualities: they have a wide toe box, which allows your toes to spread out naturally. They are flat, so they do not have a positive heel or an elevated heel. That throws your alignment off, can contribute to ankle tightness and calf tightness. They usually can roll up in a ball like this, which lets you use your foot freely when you're walking for your toe off and other things. Oh, and little to no arch support. These pretty much have no arch support. Some of them are very thin on the bottom, so you can feel the ground really well, and then others have a thicker sole. These ones are a little more cushioned than Vivo Barefoot, I would say. So Lems, I think, are good for when you're newer to minimalist shoes because of the little more cushioning they have on the bottom. I'm gonna show you another pair. These are my New Balance Minimus. I get these on Amazon. They also roll up really well. They're flat. These ones do have a little bit of springiness in the arch, so if that's one thing you're concerned about, is going from a lot of arch support to none, these could be a good transition shoe for you as well, because they do have that little bit. When I put these on, I feel a little spring in the arch, so I feel like I'm cheating a little when I wear these because they're not 100% minimalist in my mind. They do have the wider toe box as well, so it lets your feet be feet basically. Now these are Lem's hiking shoe, the version 2. And they say on the website that these are more moderately minimalist. They're not 100% minimalist, and I should have known by the pictures that these weren't gonna work. I was looking for something with a little extra traction for hiking, and because I like to hike mountains, and sometimes on some of the areas of the mountain where there's like this sheet of rock and it's steep, and then if it rained or something, I feel like I want something with extra traction. Anyways, I wore these for a few walks in my neighborhood. I had them in my backpack when I hiked the mountains, but I never got them out because I did fine in my sandals and my New Balance Minimus. These don't have a lot of traction, but it was dry that day, so I did fine. I'm gonna end up selling these, I think, because they're not minimalist enough for me. So I don't know, they do have maybe a little wider toe box than typical, but that's where it's not enough for me because I'm so used to having something wider where my feet can spread out more naturally, and my pinky toe does not like these shoes at all. So these are somewhat like I can move them, but they're not as flexible as I'm used to, and much thicker on the bottom than I'm used to, but they do not elevate the heel, which is nice, and not, I would say very minimal feeling of an arch support in here. I'm trying to remember when I had them on. It just little to no arch support in these, I would say. So these are maybe good for someone who hikes, who wants to just transition to something that has a slight minimalist quality to it, but not 100%. I have other ones I could show you today, but I wanted to stick with some of the ones that were good for people who are starting to wear minimalist shoes, and I just want to compare those. This is one of my son's shoes. So I have teenagers, and I don't win every battle. Occasionally I get them to agree on a minimalist shoe, but I want to show you one of their typical shoes. So see how the heel is thicker here? And then when I go to bend it, this is one of my non-negotiables. If I'm in the store with them shopping, I make sure that they can toe off at the ball of the foot, because some of the shoes will bend in a really weird spot that's not natural for a toe off. So if it's like super rigid and won't bend, I won't buy them the shoe. They do have arch support, and see the narrow toe box? Like, feet are not shaped like that. So this is just a men's athletic shoe, and they do not give you enough room for your toes, so then you end up scrunching your toes together, then your toes don't function naturally or normally, and that affects you from the ground up. As far as the positive heel, I just want to talk about that for a minute. So if you are, let me lower my camera. If your heel is elevated, see how that's putting my ankle in a plantar flex position. And that can contribute to calves being in a contracted, tight position. And if you're wearing elevated positive heeled shoes all day, then standing on the floor with your heels down probably feels like a stretch. And that's not good, because you actually should be able to get beyond this. This is neutral. And you should be able to lift your whole foot up like that. So if you're always like this, it's counteracting your ability to do this unless you do enough on your own to make sure, like the exercises we're doing, right? We're getting ankle dorsiflexion. And also the flexibility of the shoe. So if you want to be able to naturally extend your leg behind you and use your toe off freely, you don't want to be blocking yourself from this part of your gait pattern. And then the positive heel and the extra cushioning in most shoes, when you're walking, it allows you to hit the ground harder and it absorbs some of the shock for you, so you don't use your own muscles to absorb the shock as much. And if you're a runner, they allow you to run with a heel strike, which is not a natural running pattern. If you're wearing a barefoot shoe, you cannot run with a heel strike. So that's a whole other story, but just some things to think about. And at first, so if you've been wearing highly supportive shoes with a lot of arch support, with a lot of cushioning, it's exercise for your feet to go barefoot or wear barefoot shoes. So you want to gradually increase the amount of time you spend barefoot and the time you spend wearing minimalist shoes. So I wouldn't like throw on a new pair of minimalist shoes and then just go somewhere where you're walking around all day unless you have a backup pair of shoes with you, because you might not be happy later. So if you have any questions at all, let me know. I will put some links up to some of the shoes I showed you today, and I will be also sharing information about other shoes that I do like today. I wanted to start with a few.